Wyc Grousbeck speaks. He talks about changing the team, not changing the coach, and keeping the Celtics, not selling them. I'm going to call myself out on that. It's all right now on the new Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics, pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here in the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and I'm here for you, 3 days a week for the next few weeks, into the last couple of weeks of September. Then we go back to 5 days a week. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcast. Watch the show on YouTube, hop into the comment section. Let me know what you think about what we're talking about the show, all that stuff. I'm John Karalis. I used to play once upon a time. Now I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I'm back after my week off. Thanks to everybody who stuck with me through the week, through the 3 mailbags. Lots of people chiming in there. Very happy to have everybody here on board for that. Now a new podcast back to our regular podcasting schedule. Again, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Want to shout out Elijah at the at Bar Sol at Atlantis, Bahamas. Bartender there. If you're a Celtics fan, you find yourself at the Atlantis at Bar Sol. Go say hi to Elijah. Find him. He's a huge Celtics fan. Came up and say hi. He's a listener of the podcast. Super cool moment for me to have him come up and say hi. So anybody who's at the Atlantis in the Bahamas, go check him out. That's where I was for this past week. So it was a little bit of a reacclimation here. So I got my buddy Tom Westerholm here to kind of help me through those moments where my brain just says, no, we're still on island time. Still too many pina coladas in the brain. Still hasn't flushed it all the way out of the system yet. Tom, what's up? How you doing, man?
Good, man. We talk about basketball on this podcast.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
The shooty hoops.
The shooty hoops.
All right.
Yes.
All right. I think
Rounds,
I can do it. I think I can help.
Net. Guys in green.
Yeah. Little leprechaun thing.
The leprechaun guys.
Yeah.
The leprechaun guys. Yeah. Well, the main leprechaun guy spoke to the globe.
Yeah.
Big leprechaun.
Yep.
Wyc Grousbeck.
Well, smaller leprechaun, but the big money leprechaun. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of height wise, he's not the tallest of the
leprechaun. He's not the tallest leprechaun.
Not. Yeah, but he's if he stood on all of his money, he'd probably still have more than Jaylen and all the money he's giving out.
Yeah.
Well,
for sure.
He would definitely, if he sold the team, which he's not going to. We'll talk about that later. Hey, we'll talk about him keeping the coach, Joe Mazzulla, in the second segment. But let's kick it off. He spoke to Adam Himmelsbach of the Globe and touched on a bunch of different topics. These were the big 3. You see them over there on the. There you go. I got my pointing past Tom on the YouTube page. Over there on the on your right. Changing the roster, and he said that when he sat down with Brad and Joe Mazzulla, we agreed not to bring back the exact same team again, but to be open to changing the mix and bringing in additional talent. So, Tom, that right there tells me, I feel like there's so much in that little bit where we agreed we can't bring the same team back, which means got to get more help for Tatum and Brown, which means the duo of Tatum and Brown, not enough. That's my level of deduction, a little waterfall down. Like, we need to get these guys more help. And whether it's we don't think they're good enough or, whatever, it's clearly at the end of games when neither of those guys came through, they were like, gotta get those guys one more guy. And that was the plan coming out of that season.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting to that point. Later on, Wyc was like, Jaylen and Jayson are the best 2 people I could imagine building a team around. We've had them since the beginning. We've been very lucky to have them here for our whole careers. We're building a team around them. And then he said, but you add the next 8 guys to the list. You take our top 10 and we've got a really good team. And I think that speaks to your point, right? It's like, he's talking about like, oh, we couldn't imagine having 2 better players, which like, really? You couldn't like I can imagine. I can imagine it. Like like I think the world of Jaylen and Jayson, but if if you told me like
we're just imagining,
look, if we're imagining like that's if that's the best 2 you can imagine, I don't think you've got much
of a better imagination.
Yeah. But then again, to your point, then he was very careful to say, and I mean, some of that right is like, okay, like let's make sure the other guys get their due as well, right? There's a lot of talented players on this team, and blah blah blah, which is all true, and is certainly very important for the Celtics. But I do think that's kind of to your point, right? Like this is a group of guys because like Jaylen and Jayson are very very good players, and we've seen that they don't quite get you over that hump. They're close. But they haven't done it yet. As constructed, they have just not been able to get over that hump just yet.
And a side note, I think you can also say that the supporting cast hasn't been good enough. And you can say, look, Jaylen and Jayson, they're fine. If Wyc listens to this podcast, or if an intern listens to this podcast and summarizes it for him, which is much more likely to happen, I would think that the response would be, no, we're not talking about Jaylen and Jayson necessarily. It's that when the defense is geared towards those 2 guys, they can all sell out, and they didn't have that person to help them out. Like I'm just like looking at the other side of this equation and saying like getting more help. When you say we couldn't bring back the exact same team, it means there's a third person. Like they said, a third person, whether that's an indictment on Brown and Tatum as a duo, the supporting cast, or a little from column A, a little from column B.
Yeah, right.
I think there's enough to spread around. Within this little answer are admissions that the team as constructed wasn't good enough and wasn't just an injury or a better break away from winning a championship. They said this team that got close the past 2 seasons is not good enough to win a championship. Blame whomever you want. Got to change it.
Yeah, which I do wonder about that a little bit, because like when you talk about the supporting cast, a very important part of that supporting cast, like the 6th man of the year couldn't shoot a basketball by the time the season ended. Like
right.
There were things that went wrong with the supporting cast that weren't really the fault of the supporting cast. There were kind of like situations that were beyond their control, I guess. So I curious to see how that plays itself out. But yeah, I mean, to the larger point, like I think to me, it's more little column A, little column B, right? Because I think you can say, sure, the supporting cast didn't quite give Tatum and Brown what they needed. And that's true. Also, Tatum and Brown needed to be better. Like you can't turn the ball over the amount that they turned the ball over and win these games. Like these, you can't have these cold stretches that are just so hard to recover from. Like I think it does. I think it's an all-encompassing thing, and I think that's part of the reason why you see such a significant change in the core. Like why you see Marcus Smart go out the door, why you see a big name like Kristaps Porzingis come in. Like you see all this stuff happening because sure, Tatum and Brown are really good and can be the cornerstone of certainly of a team that makes the finals. We know that for a fact, and probably a team that wins a championship. I think we can safely say that they are capable of that, but the whole thing needs to get better. The whole system needs to improve. And, here we are. Like, this is kind of their first, it's kind of interesting because this is kind of their first stab at it after their initial attempt, right? Like,
yeah,
like they kind of kept that same core together for a long time. This is their first attempt to just like, okay, all right. We've figured out what we want to keep, and it's Jaylen and Jayson, and everything else, we'll fashion it all around that. This is kind of their first real attempt to do that without other pieces that were also a part of that core.
Yeah, it's just yes, and the admission of it wasn't like if they were going to keep that same core together, they said no, we can't do that.
Right.
As we talked about multiple times, and I've talked about multiple times in this podcast, the idea of getting a little extra help, a little, maybe another shooter here, maybe another ball handler, another big that wasn't like Porzingis, just a big. None of that stuff was palatable. They sat down, and hey, Wyc is the guy that yelled at them in the locker room in the Miami series, and had an interaction on the sideline with Joe Mazzulla and all of that. So he's watching, and he's been involved, not meddlesome like some owners. Okay, well, Tom, I don't know how meddlesome they've been. I don't think so, but hey, maybe Tom has a different opinion. But the one thing that they are keeping is the coach. And we'll talk about it's interesting that it's been the Wyc and Mazzulla relationship that had people saying that maybe Joe was on the way out. So we'll talk about that next. First, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. It's the one that we love and use here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And football season is here. While the NBA goes through its last month and a half of inactivity, football season is about to kick off, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to win all season long. Right now, all you got to do is bet on a Super Bowl winner, and you can get a bonus bet every time they win in the regular season. So if you bet on a team that wins 14 games, you can get 14 bonus bets. So make sure you make a good pick. Just pick any team to win the Super Bowl, and you'll get that bonus bet for every victory. Use your bonus bets on everything that you want that they have there. Spreads, player props, over-unders, more, anything that you want. It's very easy to use, very easy to navigate. When you win, you get your money right away. It's a lot of fun, and it's not just betting on who wins and who loses. So if you want to have some fun with it and get these bonus bets, make your Super Bowl pick over at FanDuel.com/lockedon. You got to use that FanDuel.com/lockedon. You can start earning your bonus bets with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Just ask you, if you're going to do it, please gamble responsibly. Back all week here, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 days a week. So 3 days a week of new Celtics podcasts. I'm back. I'm podcasting on a regular basis. We'll save the mailbag Monday for next week, since I just did 3 full mailbags. I'll get your mailbags done next week. Get back to that. This whole week is basically catching up on things that happened while I was, and it's like a lot of things happen. We got to talk about the Derek White extension, potentially talk about all this stuff. So we'll get to that stuff. First, we got to get back into the Wyc Grousbeck interview in the Boston Globe from last week, and Joe Mazzulla sticking around. And Tom, you've seen the clip of Joe leaving Jaylen and Jayson in at the end of a blowout, was against Philly, and get them out from Wyc, and I am, and all that stuff. Wyc said basically Brad feels more strongly about Joe Mazzulla.
I bet he also feels strongly about Ime Udoka, for the record.
Yes, which he did, and he didn't bite on the question.
Right.
He did say, though, if Joe had done a poor job, I would have thought about replacing him, but he did a very good job. He took us within one game of the best record in the league, one game of being in the finals as a rookie coach. So I'm comfortable and happy to have Joe as head coach. I don't think I think Wyc Grousbeck is obviously, he's the guy, the guy in charge, the principal owner. And he obviously is going to say, if I thought Joe sucked, I'd fire him. But I never thought that Joe his job was ever in jeopardy. I never thought for a second. And I think this kind of confirms it. And I don't think the Celtics ever wanted to have another head coach. I don't think they wanted to start this season with a new head coach. Starting with a new center and changing the personnel is enough. to bring in a new coach on top of that would have been, I think, disastrous. Because I don't think there's any one of these coaches that are out there right now that's just a slam dunk. Hey, you get this guy, you win a championship. So I think he's talking Joe up, and I believe that Joe has the potential to be a really good coach, and I think he did a better job than most people will say. But I don't think they had much choice but to keep him.
Yeah, and I think it would have been kind of a bad look too to not give him a chance, right? Like, because this last season was not a chance. Like, this was a necessity. And I mean, it was like, certainly there was a lot of stuff to evaluate, right? There was a lot of stuff to kind of learn from for him and for the Celtics kind of evaluating him. But this was not a situation where, it was such an odd situation coming into it. It wouldn't have, like, just kind of firing him after this just wouldn't have been fair. Like, and I know, like,
No, right.
that's life, right? Like, life isn't fair, but like, also, you don't know if Joe's a good coach or not yet. There was no way to know. I mean, I did think it was interesting, Wyc's answer on this. The tone of it was just so like, well, Brad felt very strongly about Mazzulla, and if Brad, like, he kind of avoided saying, like, I also feel very, he kind of like put the onus on Brad a little bit. And, I do think I do think it's probably not ideal for a head coach to have like an owner, like, very publicly, like on TV, kind of being like, hey, get your guys out. Like, I don't know. He's the coach. You guys put him in charge. Let him figure it out. But but I do think, like, I think it's very clear that Wyc listens to and trusts Brad, and it's very clear that Brad trusts Joe. And I think that's probably enough for where we are right now, right? Like, that's okay. That like good enough. Let's see where it leads.
Right. The comparison I've been making, the analogy I've been making is, the pilot. The pilot was incapacitated right after takeoff, and Joe had to jump in the seat. And you can't blame him for all of the turbulence and the bumpy landing at the end. You got to let him kind of fly his own plane.
Yeah, like, it would not be helpful for the backup pilot to have the CEO of the airline in the seat being like, "Are you sure you're doing this right?"
Yeah. Check your flaps. That's piloting term.
I checked my flaps.
Yeah,
thank you.
Landing gear up, or you should probably put it up if it's not up. Yeah. I got it.
I'm pressing the button right now.
Yeah. How much autopilot are you using? I'm not paying the autopilot. I'm paying you. All right, I'm gonna stop now. I do, and I've said this in many podcasts this offseason. I do believe that there is strong potential that Mazzulla, with the offseason, with the lessons of this past season, and with some guidance from a stronger, more committed to him assistant coaching staff, not to knock the assistants from last year, because they did a good job under the circumstances, but they also weren't Joe's assistants. It's really hard to overstate when Joe just walks into the room and they're like, okay, here's your new boss. And it's like, okay, yeah, you fired the old guy under circumstances that I'm sure a lot of them were like, did you need to fire him, or did you need to do this? What are you doing? I think within the team, there's a lot of questions about how the Celtics handle this. There's the questions outside. I've been very clear on, I agree with how the Celtics handle it. I'm very critical of Ime Udoka for the choices that he's made, but regardless, I'm not here to reiterate that stuff. I'm just saying that giving Joe Mazzulla that summer, all of that, everything that I've just had is very, very important, because you can't just judge him on this one frantic season where he got the job the week before training camp started. It's really not fair to fully judge and make your fully formed opinion on that. Now, if he does a lot of the same things this season, all right, fine. But if he's if he very obviously is starting to learn and we see some tangible differences, then we can start saying, okay, there's very obviously learned some lessons, and the situation matters. So to have the owner behind him like this and just kind of put a lot of that stuff to bed, very important, I think, for the Celtics, considering that Wyc was the most vocal, obviously visible one that had any kind of back and forth with him.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it like that little bit of job security too, right? Like, I just think like there was a real chance, I wouldn't say that I thought his job was in jeopardy this offseason, but I think if I'm Mazzulla, I feel a little bit better that if I don't like, if my team goes on like a 5-game losing streak, and is like, I don't know, 13-11, like that and like is like underperforming just a little bit. I don't feel like I'm gonna get fired now, like mid-season. Like if I'm Mazzulla, I feel a little bit like, okay, I can put some things in place. I can try to build something here a little bit, which I think that's really important. I think you brought this up on previous pods. The Celtics like to have coaches hang around for a while. Like when they hire a guy, they hire him for the long term if possible, right? Like, and I think like for Mazzulla, like that kind of opportunity, that kind of structure for the team, that kind of security, that kind of like forward thinking. I think that stuff's really important.
This is a relationship that's going to continue because not only is Joe Mazzulla not going anywhere, Wyc Grousbeck isn't going anywhere. He's not selling the team. We'll talk about that next. Want to thank all of you Locked On Celtics listeners for making this show part of your regular routine here Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Head on over to the Locked On NBA podcast, Locked On NBA, covering the whole league. I will be there on Wednesday with Jake Madison, my usual hosting spot, so check out the show. It's a real fun look at the league, and we are 5 days a week on that podcast. All right, Tom, Wyc Grousbeck and his band of merry men, rich men.
Yes.
I mean, that would make them merry, considering all the money they have collectively. Bought the team in 2000.
There's a steal from the rich, steal from the rich, give to the poor joke somewhere. I don't know what it is though.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
it's maybe that's the joke. I don't know.
I did it.
$360 million in 2002. They bought the team. 21 years later, Forbes values the team at about $4 billion. And it's a lot of money.
That's some money.
That's a lot of money. And guys who have money love to make money. And when the opportunity is there to make a lot of it, they like to pull the trigger on that. It's like Mr. Burns told Homer Simpson once, I'd trade it all for a little bit more. That's generally the thought. But he told Adam Himmelsbach, no thought of selling the team. Quote, no thought of selling the team. I did this for love and for Celtic pride, not for any price tags, period. My initial thoughts, like, really, you don't want to cash like 25% of it is $1 billion. You can sell off 25% of the team. Take $1 billion in, just bring in another minority owner, right? He comes in, $1 billion or minority ownership group, whatever. You get a little extra money to spend on your whatever taxes. You get to, I don't know, buy another boat, do something. I'm surprised that this team hasn't pulled any equity out of the team to fund something, especially like I am such a huge proponent of move out of the Garden. They should have done it a long time ago, but at this point, I think it's impossible to do. I've been wanting them to build their own facility for a long time where they get to control everything. All of the concerts, all the wrestling, all of the monster trucks, all of everything that comes through, like the Chase Center, where they could just bring in money, and that would help them make decisions that maybe they wouldn't make in past seasons. Paying a player they might not have paid, keeping a player, I don't know, like Grant Williams, that they might not have kept because of whatever circumstances. And maybe that's not the best example because, second apron and all that stuff. But if there's ever been a criticism of this ownership group, it's like every once in a while you'd be like, I wish they'd pay the tax, and I think they've done a good job. Like, they've obviously been a very good ownership group. And there are only like 2 or 3 seasons where I'd be like, oh, I wish they went in a little bit more all in on this. Understanding why they didn't, but if they had their own building and if they pulled equity out of the team to go back, but at this point, I don't even know if they could do that because I don't even know if pulling $1 billion out is enough to go buy your own facility, considering the city of Boston, the cost of
it'll get you a parking space for sure.
Yeah. I mean,
pull some equity out of the team, get yourself a nice 2-bedroom apartment. You'd be
yeah, with that one, then you might actually have the parking space could come with it.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, I think when you start talking about those levels of money, it's almost like it's almost like why bother? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I know that's crazy to say about that level of money, but it's like, I mean, most people who buy an NBA team buy it for
it is a luxury item.
It's a luxury item.
Yeah, it's an ego thing.
Yeah, it's like, well, I'm not going to cash out my I don't know cars well enough. What's a very expensive car? My
Kia Forte.
Like, I'm not gonna sell my Kia Forte just because just because like it went way up in value. I have billions of dollars. Like what? Well, like I don't care that I didn't buy like you buy a Maybach. You're not like, ooh, I really hope I'm seeing this as an investment opportunity. It's like, no, I'm buying this as a flex. And like, at the absolute upper echelons, right? Like that's what a sports team is it's just a giant flex. It's like hey, if I bring a championship to this, like I can say I brought a championship to this city. I can be the first one who gives my little speech when when Adam Silver hands over the microphone. Like that's what you're paying for, is this ultimate just I don't know, like middle finger to everybody else. Like that's like
the ultimate middle finger to everybody.
It's not
else.
a middle finger, but you know what I mean. It's the ultimate like flex, right? It's the ultimate.
It is.
And I think it's so to me, it's like, I mean, I guess sure, if you wanted to like start, I'm not a businessman. I don't know anything, but like I pull out equity, whatever. But I just think like I just think if you're Wyc, like I don't have to sell. I didn't buy this team. I didn't buy this team to make money. I bought this team to flex. I bought this team as my Maybach, so. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, no. And I do have to call myself out because, I'm sitting here saying like, why isn't a rich person doing something to make himself richer? And like, I will say that to say, hey, I did this for love and Celtic pride. And, they could very easily say, hey, fun ride. We did win a championship. Things worth $4 billion. I'm out. Deuces. I'm going to take my cut of the $4 billion and like, who knows what he's worth already. Double it, triple it, whatever it is by selling the team. And I don't know, go buy an island somewhere. I can't say I would be any different, but
to be abundantly clear, that is 100% what I like. Celtics pride is nice and all, but like, I'm cashing out if I'm in that.
Cash me out, like, but I'll get a luxury box. I'll go to the games.
Yeah,
but like, it's $1 billion. But
again, that's the echelon that you and I are in, and versus the echelon that.
Yeah. And they sit there and be like, you know what? I don't need it. I don't need it. But so good for them. Good for them.
Like,
good for them for not saying.
We spent all summer being like, Jaylen Brown is getting $300 million. That's so much money. And now we're talking about the guy who's going to give him that $300 million.
Yeah. To have so much money that you're like, I don't need that billion. I don't need it.
Like, I don't need it.
I don't need it.
I'm flexing
I'll
with it.
sell the team later
Yeah.
for that $4 billion. I mean, honestly, it's going to be worth $4 billion for who knows how long, right?
It's not going anywhere, man.
Not going anywhere.
These TV deals are not getting they're not getting cheaper.
So, I mean, sit here, play this, you can sit there and say, hey, I do this for love and Celtic pride. Because I'm not selling this team tomorrow, but 10 years from now, come talk to me and let's see, you can say at that point, you can be like, yeah, I'm an old man now or whatever. I've run my course. I want to change to a different phase of my life. Now I'm selling the team. And that'd be fine. That money's still going to be there. But for now, he gets to play this is great. Looks good. I don't need $1 billion, man. I just Celtic pride and all of that stuff.
Me neither, Wyc. I also don't need $1 billion.
I don't need your $1 billion. I also refuse to take $1 billion.
I refuse.
Damn it. To be clear, I do not refuse. That was a joke. If anybody does have $1 billion that they want to give me in exchange for basically anything that I own or everything that I own, that we can work out. I'm very happy. Everything is for sale.
You got those blue and white Concords that are pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean,
still on the table?
They would be, we could talk about that. We could talk, yeah. I mean, for $1 billion, sure.
Yeah, all right.
Sure. Yeah. For $1 billion,
would you wear Crocs for the rest of your life for $1 billion? $1
billion with a B.
Billion. I said it. You heard me.
I mean, I get to wear other things too, right?
No, I said what I said. Your shoe game, sure. Your shoe game for the rest of your life is Crocs. You got to wear them to the garden. You got to wear them to the practice facility. You got to interview Jayson Tatum wearing Crocs.
Well, so I'm still working with the $1 billion.
Good point. Yeah, good point. You don't have to, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. No, you're done.
I'll wear the Crocs.
No.
Doesn't mean I can't put like something over them or something.
No, you can dress them up. They got nice little bling you can put in there. My son's got a bunch of Disney characters pushed through the little holes in it. Yeah. If get them real fancy.
Yeah. You can tell. I would wear Crocs for $1 billion, knowing that no one's going to give me $1 billion to wear Crocs. I can say that.
Yeah, right. There's no danger here. Yeah.
There's no danger of me actually ever wearing Crocs. Which, if you want to wear Crocs, by all means, go for it.
I wear Crocs.
Yeah. I'm going to stop now because if Crocs become a sponsor,
and got to be careful.
Yeah. My price tag goes from $1 billion down to much, 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 much less when it comes to Crocs. So, if anybody at the Crocs company wants to change my mind about your company, then let's talk.
Yeah.
Oh God. One day back and I'm already off the rails.
I waited until 33 minutes. We're good.
Thanks, Tom.
Appreciate you, man.
Bye, Tom. Thanks, everybody, for listening, for watching, for the people who saw me spill water on the YouTube page right about there. I laughed about it. You didn't see it if you're listening on audio, but when Tom started talking and I took my first sip of water, I just splashed it right down the middle of my shirt. So clearly off my game. I swear I will get back into regular season speed. We got a month and a half for me to get my head straight. So I will do that. So make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Watch the show on YouTube. Hop into the comment section. Let me know what you think about the show, about the content, about me, whatever. You can just let it all hang out. And I would love it if you are a regular listener who's here every day. I would love it if you share the podcast. Spread the word. Tell your friends. Tell everybody at the bar you work with that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.